This is Real Sports Talk, Rumack and the Greek, featuring Billy the Greek and Stormin Norman Rumack, brought to you by the good people at Cosa and Carpets for Life.
Hey everybody, Stormin on Rumack. On the right, of course I'm on the right. And then on the left, it's the one and only Billy Georgitsakis. We're usually at the Bottom Line restaurant, but you know, the restaurants have holidays and they have private parties and engagements, all that. So we're working remotely, and then we'll be back at the Bottom Line in the new year, and along with our producer Jordan Rumack, who's he's an industrious guy. He's away in Hong Kong, and he's producing our show from Hong Kong, and we're here in Toronto. So that's what I call a hard-working guy. And they're 12 hours ahead of us, too. All right, but we got lots to talk about. We got the Cosa Classic, our friends Cosa and Nikki, the King of Carpets. We thank them for their loyal sponsorship. Can't do without them, that's for sure. And we got a lot to talk about, including maybe the finest professional sports game ever played, the World Cup final. The best against the best, Mbappe, the best for the future, likely, and Lionel Messi. He says now, apparently, he might come back for another World Cup in 4 years. And by the way, that one will be shared between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So imagine what the scalpers' prices would be if Argentina has a game in Canada. Good Lord. That might be an all-time record setter. And with my great friend Billy, we just might have a bit of a chat about the Dallas Cowboys blowing a big lead in FLA and Florida against Jacksonville. Hey, Billy?
Keep talking, man. I'm doing something over here. I'm trying to convince this bill collector to leave me alone. More money. These guys have been chasing me for months, and unfortunately,
there's lots to talk about. Lots of fun things to talk about between the Leafs, the NFL.
Hey, let me get.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just 15 minutes. Let me get a word in. Just a welcome for those of you watching for the first time. Welcome aboard. For those of you that have been tuning in since we started some years back. Welcome back. We really appreciate you guys. We also, as Norm mentioned, appreciate the good people at COSA, Central Ontario Standardbred Association. And we're here to I don't know what we're here to do. We're here to probably, the best way that I can hopefully explain this, we're here to try to, talk about me, see what I'm doing, see what I'm up to, see what I'm thinking. Obviously, I'm the best obviously I'm one of the best in the business. So thanks for tuning in. So first question, Norm, right off the hop. And you know how I feel about the beautiful game. I'm a fan, but I'm not a fan. You know, I have connection, but I'm not connected, if that makes sense. And sometimes the game is a little bit slow for my liking, a little bit too tepid in terms of scoring and that. But nobody can argue with the entertainment quality of that World Cup final. And again, one of the most entertaining, sporting events that I've ever seen in my life. You followed the game, and you followed games for a long time. It's hard to. That's got to be on a list of top 10 sporting events. Forget about football. That's got to be in the top 10 of all time, doesn't it?
Well, I mean, I haven't heard anybody say anything. At least we'll start off with footy, with soccer. I mean, everybody, the analysts, the fans, just talk with shit. Sorry, even people who rarely watch it would say, wow, that was something, or only occasionally watch soccer or football, depending on where you're watching and what you call it. But yeah, most people agree that was certainly the best World Cup final ever. And, it's rare, Billy, when you get the best two of the best players in the world having a night to remember forever on the same game, the same occasion, in terms of Lionel Messi and Mbappe. Mbappe with a hat trick and then a penalty kick goal as well. And Lionel Messi, he picked up Argentina by their bootstraps and won the game. Just incredible. And their goalkeeper, not to be outdone, and brilliant in the penalty kicks against France.
Okay, so after all is said and done, and again, interesting reports out of Argentina stating that Messi might come around. Maybe the taste of glory's got to him. Maybe he's not retiring officially from the international club, and who knows, we'll see him in 4 years. But as of right now, in your estimation, is he surpassed? Forget about the international game, but Just in Argentina alone, is Lionel Messi surpassed in terms of the hierarchy Diego Maradona from this performance alone, which again is very comparable because Diego in '86, for those that remember, for those that were old enough, did not have the best complement around him either. Whereas if you take Messi away from this Argentinian team, I don't think they get out of the group stage.
Well, yeah, they may not. But no, I think everybody, and I'm talking about people who've watched the game forever, who've played the game, agree. I mean, my photo just, I'm back. Okay. Anyways, I see the comments from guys all
I'm talking. Hold on. Keep it down. This is not a mom and pop show. If you're going to come on here with a guy of my caliber, fix your equipment, Norm Rumack. Fix your equipment, pal, the next time you come on here. On the Greek show.
What's wrong with my equipment? Just kidding. Anyway, no, but seriously, Billy, I've been reading Twitter comments, Facebook comments from guys who play in the game now professionally with my team, with Chelsea, with all other clubs, with analysts, guys who played with some great teams before. They all agree, GOAT, greatest of all time. That applies. There seems to be no disagreement. Greatest of all time anywhere applies to Lionel Messi right now.
So the greatest of all time, obviously that's it. There's a few other guys for consideration. Yep. So the greatest of all time means to you in 30, 40, 50 years, whenever we start counting, that he surpassed Pelé, he surpassed everybody on that that mountain. Is that what it means?
For now, and the other fellow who did quite nicely, his team lost, but Mbappe, like he was the team. He gets a hat trick and he scores. I mean, he brought them back into the game. They looked like they were finished with 10, 15 minutes to go. And he made it into a match. I mean, so he's regarded as the next generational. He's already regarded as a generational player, but he will, for most fans, most likely inherit the throne because he's already been in a World Cup, 4 years ago. So he's on that treadmill to ultimate greatness, and we'll see how far he gets.
But here's the interesting. We talk about obviously the Golden Boot. The Golden Boot went to Mbappe with the hat trick. But here's what I notice all the time, and especially for a novice soccer guy, that a lot of these goals come from the spot, right? Whereas Mbappe, he scored a couple from the spot, but he's a driving force in the pitch. Like you can call anybody. Like I love Messi, especially the callousness and the flamboyance in which he took the penalty. Obviously, that was like you're on center stage. There's billions of people watching, and this guy's like not only scored the goal, the first one, but with such casual fashion. Like it just looked like he's better than everybody else, and he plays with a flair and an arrogance reserved for only the great ones, guys like myself, right? I can so relate to Messi, in so many ways. He's almost like a spitting image of me as a former baseball player and broadcaster. It'd be hard to separate who's better at their craft, but obviously he's pretty good at what he does. And overall, a World Cup worth remembering, despite it being in a questionable place in a questionable part of the world in terms of Qatar getting the bid.
Well, yeah, and there's ongoing stories that human rights groups have talked about in terms of they're saying thousands of construction workers, all foreign workers, who lost their lives in the construction, and Qatar and their people and FIFA, question that number. And, there's human rights questions there. And there were questions on how they got the bid to begin with. There was allegations, and I'll underline the word allegations, of money, payoffs to people who had the boats in other countries. So who knows? I don't know if we'll ever know. But
are you saying, hold on. What you're telling the people, man, there's a lot of people watching this. What you're telling them is there's a possibility that the great institution of FIFA might be corrupt? Is that what you're suggesting?
Well, I'm saying there are allegations to that effect. Yes. Now, I wasn't there. I didn't see the vote, but there were allegations ever since the vote took place years ago, to give Qatar the games. Why did it get the games over, for example, England or Scotland? I mean, or other traditional footballing countries. It's like, okay, I know they want to grow the game, but still.
Watch football in England and Scotland anyways.
What? What's that?
Watch football in England and Scotland.
Well, I'd say about 99.999999999 to infinity percentage of the population. So, but anyway, look, I mean, it's a treat. You know, you make comparison, Billy, to any sport you want: baseball, hockey, NFL. It's not always the case, even with two great countries. You know, France has been a two-time, as Argentina was, a two-time World Cup winners, and France won it last time in 18, and they won it in 98 on their home soil. So France is a real, and they've won the Euro after 98. I guess that was in 2000. So they are a footballing power. Argentina as well, just like, you know, Brazil is. Brazil is a five-time winner, and it was a little bit heartbreaking for them to lose the way they did. What I'm saying is, like, you know, I don't think anybody in anywhere football where soccer is number one would disagree that you'd be hard pressed to get a show where two of the best players in the world go head to head and put everything they have and their very best on display, and then it goes into penalty kicks. You couldn't, you know,
hold on. Here's the issue. So obviously, and we'll get to a little bit of NFL talk about my record. Demetrius D, what's up, buddy? Man, nice to see you. Nice to pop your ugly ass in here. Here's what I'll tell you, Norm. Yeah. And the issue that I have, an absolutely beautiful from the 80th minute on, the minute France was awarded the penalty, made 2-1. From the 80th minute until the stoppage of extra time, that was the most entertaining stuff that we'll see. Do you think it was, like, given it's a World Cup final, do you think that's somewhat anticlimactic for them to award the World Cup in a shootout? Like, for example, if you get to the extra time and there's tie after 120, why would you not play a sudden death and let the clubs win on the pitch? It's like, I don't know, you're a hockey fan. I'm talking. Don't interrupt me, man.
Well, here's why. Here's why, Billy. Because
I'm talking still, Rumack. This is some poignant stuff I'm about to deliver.
Yeah, okay.
Are you familiar with that term? Poignant?
Yeah, I heard it a time or two. I mean, ordinarily I give you credit, but I can't, Billy, because I have heard it used.
Well, for you numbnuts watching that know nothing about the beautiful game, right? Let's suppose you're an NFL guy or a hockey guy. Would you like the Super Bowl, the Game 7 of Stanley Cup, to be awarded in a penalty shootout? Wouldn't that be distasteful rather?
Well, okay, so you want my answer, Billy? Here's the answer. Keeping in mind, you know, guys, you look at the game of soccer, okay, so you have your starting roster, which is...
Answer the question.
Hang on, I got to explain. You got to let me explain. So you're playing 90 minutes, and a guy like Messi and Mbappe are on for the whole time. And then, if the game's not settled after a few bonus, call it that, injury time, it's usually about 5 or 6 minutes. Then you've got two 15-minute halves, so it's another half hour. Now, you know, you yourself have talked about the one thing you and some other people, and that's fine, you don't like about soccer footy is the lack of scoring. Well, hang on. But you could theoretically end up having a game where your best players, if it go like two great teams could have a scoreless contest for like hours, right? It could happen. The problem is your best players are going to go down with either at the very least cramps or serious leg injuries if the game goes on and on. And because they're playing and running all the time, Billy, it's not like you don't get like, you know, like a break for offside, right? You don't get penalties.
Do you even watch soccer? You're telling me Messi's running the whole time? I'm sure he gets his little breathers walking up. They're not.
Not that. No. The only breathers would be maybe your defenders a little bit. Obviously, your goalkeeper, but no, your midfielders and your wingers and your strikers, they got to move because they got to play defense too. They can't just goal suck. Some guys do, but the vast majority, especially in a World Cup, you can't afford to be a passenger. And you're playing against either France or Lionel Messi in Argentina. You're going to lose the match. All right, you're going to look at you. I'm just saying.
Does Norm Rumack, can Norm Rumack conceive, because you're like a borderline Hall of Famer, brilliant guy, even if you will. Can you come up with an idea that would kind of allow for the result not to be displayed in terms of penalties? Is there anything you can do? Can you reduce the field? Can you do anything? It's a terrible ending. Anybody that watches the game will tell you it's a terrible way to award a World Cup. It's terrible. It's just terrible.
Well, I don't think it'll ever change because I think the fans, they love it and hate it at the same time. Depends which side you're on, right? Nobody in Argentina is complaining about penalty kicks tonight. In France, they might even agree with you. But having said that, Billy, if there ever was a compromise, it would be maybe, and this wouldn't guarantee anything, maybe 2 additional 10-minute halves, okay? And, obviously just like you have now, a mandatory water break for 2 or 3 minutes. But I'm just saying, you could still have another 20 minutes, half hour. And if it's 2 great teams, nobody wants to lose on a bad play, so they're going to play very cautiously and carefully while trying to generate scoring chances. I'm just saying, and what if you have a player who has a hamstring or an ACL because they're exhausted? Well, I'm saying, Billy, it happens. It does happen in soccer.
Okay, Demetrius Diaz, we're talking. Give me a break, hamstrings, soccer, this, that. Give me a break, Rumack. Give me a. When you're talking about
a break about what? My team, Chelsea's been hampered by injuries without playing 120 minutes.
They play 5-6 overtimes, and then we're gonna have.
But Billy, they
go down with the crap.
Billy, you said. You said it was. Did you say it was Demetrius who was asking the question?
Demetrius doesn't want to know about third world sports, so let's get on.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, by the way, in hockey, last I checked, you get a 15-20-minute intermission to sit your butt down. So please, no comparisons with hockey and footy. There's I'm sorry, but it's an invalid comparison when you have 15-20-minute intermissions regularly in hockey. No comparison. Not now. Not till the end of time.
You're telling me the soccer guys are are fitter and better athletes than hockey? That's what you're trying to say here?
Well, I mean, in terms of like a marathon type situation, they probably are because a lot of them are basically on for the whole game, especially in a World Cup final. Yeah, do you think you're going to sit down Mbappe or Lionel Messi in a World Cup final for 30 seconds? I don't think so. So and they're not the only ones. You have other players. If you want to win it, your best are going to be out there. If you have to substitute guys, you do. That's how, everything's at stake. So you throw it all out. But you guys got to be realistic. There is no 15-20-minute intermission every period and then in every overtime. So there's no comparison, zero comparison in terms of what the soccer players go through and what the hockey players go through.
Alert.
Fair enough. I like the rants. It was fun.
All right, let's go to the Costa Classic. Stick around, you scoundrels. Piers Super Mario Velas jumped on board. You got anything you want to ask? You want to bring anything to the floor? No heavy hitter. You're not getting a hat until 2024. But what I will do is I'm going to bring you back for next Sunday's NFL football picks. Maybe if I decide you're probably out for the next Sunday. Anyways, in the meantime, here's this week's Costa Classic. Stick around. We'll be right back with a little bit of NHL. Big Leaf trade, Norm Rumack. Seismic shift today. Bringing in a guy, so we'll talk about the Leafs, we'll talk about the NFL, and maybe a word or two on the whispers of how long does Nick Nurse have in terms of the fledgling Raptors. That and more after this Costa Classic.
Finish Tyler Smith. Mortals in and Matt kicked Haley to the outside. A rock and roll dance and Peter Wren. They're into the stretch for the 2012 Cleveland Classic. Off and a pacing, Bolt the Newer comes off the car with the lead. Pet Rock is there on the inside, racing an early second as they go in and around the first turn. It's Thinking Out Loud, who's now in early third. Racing over there fourth comes Rockin' Finish, then you'll find Mortals in. A rock and roll dance is the trailer going out of the first quarter. And Pet Rock out of the pocket does come on to get the lead. Bolt the Newer is in their second opening quarter in 27-2. It's Thinking Out Loud is pacing in third. In fourth is Rockin' Finish. Then it's Mortals In and a rock and roll dance rounding the turn. Pet Rock now feeling some heat on the outside. Here comes Thinking Out Loud and David Miller. Right there is Bolt the Doer watching the action from third. Rockin' Finish is racing fourth as they pace onto the half. Thinking Out Loud is trying to clear. Thinking Out Loud is there in 54 and 4. Pet Rock is now in second. Bolt the Doer is now in third. Racing fourth as they round the turn. Rockin' Finish. The last two are Mortals In and a rock and roll dance as they round the turn to the backside. Thinking Out Loud now kicks away by 3. Over their second is Pet Rock. Bolt the Doer is racing third. In fourth comes a Rockin' Finish as they go to 3/4. Thinking Out Loud is there in 1:22 and 1 to the final turn in the Cleveland Classic. Thinking Out Loud by 2. Pet Rock is their second. Bolt the Doer is showing headway. From the outside then is Mortals In. Inside Rockin' Finish as they move to the top of the stretch. Thinking Out Loud turns first. Bolt the Doer is coming at him on the outside. Passing lane for Pet Rock. Bolt the Doer on the outside strikes the front and Bolt the Doer wins the Cleveland Classic. Pet Rock second. Thinking Out Loud and Rockin' Finish 151.
By now, you know the name KOSA TV, an industry leader producing unique, high-quality digital content promoting harness racing in Ontario. Features, virtual programming, live events, and more. KOSA TV has it covered. Follow our social media channels and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page to view the latest content. And if you're looking to bet your favorite Ontario track, check out hpibet.com. KOSA TV, taking Ontario racing global.
Okay, we're back after a brief break. That's not so easy to say, Billy. Why don't you try? After a brief break. Yeah, it's a little bit of alliteration there, so I had to get my tongue untied. I'm glad I did. Now I can say Billy Georgitsakis, quite phonetically correct. Okay, so that's good. And thanks to our friends at KOSA. Appreciate their loyal sponsorship. Great folks. Yeah, I worked with them for a long time at the Fan 590, and now great to be working with them as well, along with Billy here. Loyal sponsors, just like our buddy Nick, the king of carpets. There's only one king of carpets, and it's Nicky. Isn't that right, Billy? Of course.
For those of you guys watching, obviously that little logo right there is the king of carpets. That's Nicky Borsch. Flip on him, even if you're curious, even if you have like no real need for carpet, go check out Nicky Borsch, man. Yeah. And tell me what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you click on his profile, either through Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, wherever you're watching this. I don't even know. click on him. Just click on him. He's a real interesting character, and thanks to the heavy hitter, yeah, I'm a great guy. Stop it with all this stuff over here. What's going on? All right, so we got much to cover and a little time to do, so we're trying to get out of here by the top of the hour. Obviously, my Monday nighter on tap. Give you a little little talk about that. Mario wants some Leaf talk, so Leaf talk, please. All right, Rumack. The Toronto, your beloved Toronto Maple Leafs have lost 2 in a row. Rumack, cause for concern?
No, I mean even I am realistic, Billy. I know you find that hard to believe, but no, it's 2 games you'd expect them to win. You expect them to win a lot of games, right? Because they have the talent to do it. But no, you're not going to, even if, look, this year, I say it in good times and bad times, Billy. You and I, we don't agree on a lot of things about the Leafs, but one thing we agree on, even if the Leafs were the last qualifying playoff team in the conference, all that would matter, and no one would care. If they won their first round, then they won their second round, no one's going to give a rat's behind about, oh, yeah, they were just an A play. I always give the example, and that's a legitimate one. The 2012 LA Kings, they just barely got into the playoffs. They finished 8th spot. They win a Stanley Cup. Now, they did have a disappointing regular season, but all I'm saying is, to answer your question, no. A 2-game slide or they play 500 for a while. No, it's not a big deal because they know everything. Everything is on the line come April 10th. Everything, no matter what they do in the regular season.
Okay, how does the trade of of Malkin.
Fill me in, because I was with my, you know what it's like when you talk with your financial advisor for a few hours, Billy. I think you've had some experience with that. I was busy with my financial advisor this afternoon, so fill me in.
So I couldn't even tell you. Apparently, there's a Leaf guy, and maybe Mario can fill us in. He's right. You know what? As a matter of fact, Mario probably knows more about sports than you. You might get the boot anyways in the future. So Mario's going to tell you. There's a guy apparently on the Leafs. His name is Malgin, not to be mistaken for Malkin. Malgin, third line guy. Give him a one-way contract. So he's been jettisoned out this way. And for some reason, Colorado likes this guy. They sent us a kid in return, fourth line player. Whose name escapes me. I've been kind of busy a little bit.
So wait, Billy, let me interrupt. They didn't move your best friend Nylander? You must be disappointed.
Listen, there's the trade right there.
I'm just kidding.
This Mulligan guy, I hardly knew you for a Hunter. So here's the interesting thing with this trade, that if I saw either guy on the street, man, I would just run them over. I wouldn't even know who they were if I splashed them. Well, who are these guys?
Look, we talked about this substantially. Everybody watching the show, including Leafs Nation, our buddy James Foley, have talked about, if the Leafs are looking to bulk up for a playoff run, this wasn't the deal to do it. They've had a lot of injuries on the blue line. They certainly need some help there.
Hold on. Breaking news from an insider. Just so you know, I don't come on here. I'm a connected individual, as you know, Rumack. I've made many what's the word that I'm looking for? I've left an imprint on the sporting landscape. So obviously I know a lot of hockey executives, and I just had one text me right now. I'm not going to tell you who he is, but I will say he's with an NHL club. I'm not going to go into detail. He says, I know about Dryden Hunt. I said, good for you. So do I. What do you say? Anyways, he's a good piece. So that comes from a hockey insider. I'm not going to tell you who. It's not Jimmy Devolano. I'll tell you that. And it's not.
Wait, how about my friend? How about my friend?
That comes directly from a rival Eastern Conference general manager. I know about Dryden Hunt. He's a good piece, so we'll just leave it at that. And again, here's the interesting thing. Connor Timmins, blue liner for the Buds, acquired from Song and Dance from Arizona, right? The average fan, again, guys like Dimitri, guys that are like limited IQs, right, in comparison to the Greek, most guys do. Here's what they think. Hold on. Here's what they think, Rumack. They hear a guy that can't play for Arizona, that's somewhere toiling in the minors, and automatically they assume the guys can't play. Like, until you see a guy put on a uniform, you don't know. Even though there's no name recognition, he might turn out to be something. He might turn out to be a hidden gem. Like, Timmins has played okay. Like, so the possibility exists that this Hunt guy, what's his name over here? This Hunt, this character coming from Colorado might be worth it. Might be worth something. You never know until you see a guy in uniform what they can bring to a club, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it doesn't sound like we're talking about another addition to the second line or necessary or something like a top four, like in that quality. All right, we'll see. I mean, I don't want to write anybody off, but it doesn't sound like that kind of a deal. But I guess maybe we'll be proven wrong. But I still think for the Leafs to improve their chances postseason, they're going to have to be getting some names that we do recognize. I think everybody would agree on that.
Hold on. The next time you come on here and it's a big breaking Leaf trade, I expect you to come prepared, do your homework, Rumack. As you know, the Leafs, Marty Roberts chiming in from Barrie, Ontario, visited them to say, what's up, Marty? I hope you're feeling better, buddy. Hunt is a 6-foot player, fourth liner, grinder, and he's rugged too, Rumack. Pay attention. If Super Mario likes a guy, don't sleep. Anyways, the point of the matter is this Hunt kid, is it Hunt? This Hunt kid, 6-footer, Rumack, 6-footer, fourth line grinder. So in essence, you know who he's going to be. He's going to be a de facto Wayne Simmons kind of. And again, you never know where you're going to get a contribution from. Leafs are continuing along the journey and ebbs and flows. Again, as we know, Leafs had it. All you'd have to do is look back to last year. It's kind of the same narrative, right? Started off slow, gangbusters in November, struggle a little bit. Just like every club's going to struggle. Every club's going to lose a few games here.
Yeah.
Nothing to do. Pay attention, Mario. Nothing the Leafs do will either increase or decrease the likelihood of playoff success. There's only two areas that you need to know. Number one, you get to the playoffs, you need a healthy roster. Number two, talk to me after the trade deadline. If the Leafs go into the postseason with this same defense, okay, I don't know. I wouldn't bet on them. First of all, if the Leafs went into the postseason with Bobby Orr, Paul Coffey in their prime, you wouldn't bet on them because they have a history of coming up small in the biggest spots and not being able to get over the hump. Is this year any different? Time will tell. Too early to say. There's nothing more to say on the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's too early, really too early to say, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think everybody agrees on that because we know their history is like the only thing that's going to make people sit up and take notice is what they do well or don't do well come around April 10th or so.
All you got to do, all you got to do. So if I'm a GM now, all I got to do is figure, okay, where can we as an organization get better? What's missing in terms of my organization? And obviously the first thing that I would think about is, okay, historically, what's missing? What have we needed in the past that hasn't got us over the hump? So I look back, I'm a pretty smart guy. I look back, I said, listen, it would have been nice to find Nick Paul last year at the deadline. So we got to find a guy. You learn from history, Rumack, if you pay attention. If you pay attention to me, I'll give you the blue victory, right?
Wow,
so,
okay.
Don't mock the Greek, man, the manager of the East Shore Bulldogs. Here's what we're going to have to do. We're going to have to look at some of the interesting things that have happened over the past. Where can we find this year's Nick Paul for $1.5 million to come up big in a Game 7? So obviously, you need to find 2-3 additions to this club that play kind of like a fearless, rugged style to be your bottom six forwards, right? You can do as other guys have mentioned on this program. You can look to jettison Kerfoot. I don't know if anybody will take that contract off your hands, but ideally, you would like 2-3 characters on that Maple Leaf team that are somewhat tenacious, a little bit dirty, a little bit rugged, some guys that force the other clubs to take a shower after the game, right? Get in your face kind of guys. That's what I believe is missing. And ideally, if you can get a right-handed shooting defenseman on your power play, all power to you. Those guys don't come around often, but as we mentioned last week, I believe Morgan Riley, a healthy Morgan Riley, can get you a first-pairing right-handed shooting defenseman. I believe that can happen. Leafs have played okay without Riley, and if Riley can translate into a guy like a Peter Angelo kind of guy, even though he's not really available, then I would kind of look at that. Because historically, and I'm going to finish with this, that the Maple Leafs have one specific weakness, especially on the power play. They don't have threats from the point. They've never had a threat from the point. And during the playoffs, if you've seen their penalties, their power play is unsuccessful because nobody values the point on the Leafs on the opposition clubs. So that's what I would look for. A right-handed shooting defenseman that can play on the power play and a couple of rats that can cause trouble in the corners for 12 minutes a game. And if you do that, then you got a good chance as any, because the top 4 or 5 players on the Maple Leafs, especially this year, kudos to Nylander, are playing as good as any 4 or 5 top guys in the league, and that includes McDavid and Draisaitl and whoever else you think is 4th and 5th and 3rd on Edmonton. You got that?
Well, I think I got that, but I would also say not only Nick Paul in terms of, ruggedness. I'm not talking about brawling ruggedness. I'm just talking about, throw the puck into the corner with a dozen guys, and Nick Paul's got a good chance of coming out with the puck, right, without taking a penalty. But also it helps. But also helps.
You've been talking the whole program.
Oh yeah. Well, not in the last 10 minutes though. But it also helps if you get a little scoring punch. It makes a huge difference because Marner, Matthews, Nylander, they're going to be blanketed, right? So I'm just saying, get some scoring punch. I'm not talking about a 50-goal score, but some guys who can chip in here and there.
An idea for your consideration, Mr. Rumack. Would you enjoy, would you be an advocate of the acquisition of a guy like Ryan O'Reilly? Does he check the boxes in terms of what you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have his numbers in front of me, but yeah, I think in general, yes.
So you're agreeable, Matt. So the question is, would you trade Morgan Riley, the St. Louis Blues, for Ryan O'Reilly and some future capital? Would you make that trade right now? Right now?
No. Even future capital. Do you mean draft picks or what? What do you mean?
some young guys, whatever the case is. Obviously,
Well, it depends. If you can get some top prospects, like in other words, going to fill the boots of your starting roster, like next year, couple of years for like 5 or 6 years. But yeah, no, it can't be just anybody. You're not giving up like some half-assed defender. You're giving up a top quality player who can help your opponents right now. So it's like I'd want to look that over and know who's the whole package, not just one player. Right?
So you want the whole package, basically. You're that kind of guy.
Yeah,
eh?
I'm not giving away a guy like that just for that. You don't get defensemen like him every day of the week. You got to know what, you got to kind of balance your equation, what you're giving up with what you're getting.
Do you like your whole packages, Rumack?
I love entire packages, yes. I go looking for them.
You do, so you want. All right, moving on from the Leafs, obviously we're out here to the top of the hour. Lots to cover, especially when it comes to the circus. The circus that is the National Football League, which is, I've been following sports for a lifetime, man, it feels like, and I've never seen anything like what we saw Sunday, especially in the Las Vegas New England game. Some unbelievable stuff in the National Football League. But before we get there, we rarely talk about the Raptors for some reason here. So I just wanted to spend a couple minutes on them. At what point in time do Toronto Raptor fans start to question Nick Nurse, start to question the organization? And given the fact they have a championship, recent championship, how much credibility and leniency does that allow for? Because if the Raptors were the Toronto Maple Leafs and struggling to this point in time, they'd be calling for Masai, they'd be calling for Nurse, they'd be calling for massive trade.
No.
There's nothing coming out of Toronto in terms of criticizing the staff that's put this club together.
Yeah. Well, Billy, but there's it goes without saying, there's a huge difference right now in terms of historically Maple Leafs and Raptors. The Raptors do have, as you pointed out, that recent championship, right? So that's what Nick Nurse and Masai Ujiri have, that the current regime with the Maple Leafs aren't even, anywhere close to a championship, not yet. They've been knocked out in the first round. So right now, the Raptors, I'm pretty sure that you and I, when we chatted about them last year and the year prior when I started with you, is like, the whole point with that championship, 2019, is you can, for lack of a better term, you can dine on it for,
how long is the question?
For a few years, because, don't forget, let's face it, the Raptors won that championship on the basis, if we're going to be fair and honest, one player in a brilliant move. They got a player. He didn't really want to be here, but he carried him, right? So I'm just saying, but without him, without that one acquisition in a deal, they probably don't win. They probably go out to the Sixers in that second round, right? So I'm just saying, it wasn't the roster. The roster obviously is important, but we had that one superstar could carry a team on his back. That's why Raptors won it 2019. So you have to have that kind of a player, right? So I'm just saying, to say the Raptors, if they don't, they've had some injuries, but yeah, they're not taking the league by storm right now. Okay, so you can't necessarily rebuild a championship contender in 1 or 2 years. And you yourself said, and some other Leaf fans said, well, these guys need a little more season. Talk about Matthews, Marner, etc. They're great players, but they have to go through some disappointments, some playoff hiccups. So this is a different Raptor group in terms of the core. So maybe you have to cut them the same slack, no?
Here's what I'd ask you, and I'll let Pat, good friend of yours, Pat Leggs, on here,
yeah. And
I'll paraphrase kind of. You don't have access to some of the comments, whereas I do, obviously better prepared than Mario Vella. You want to hear my thoughts on Argentina next time? Show up at the beginning of the show. Don't make the Greek repeat himself. We'll watch the replay, a little bit later, man. I'll give you my thoughts on Argentina. Right. And more importantly, forget about me. Obviously, Rumack's an aficionado when it comes to footy. He'll let you know how he felt, but Argentina, thumbs up. Messi, the greatest of all time. Here's what according to Pat Leggs, and I'm paraphrasing here. Rumack, obviously one of the most knowledgeable sportscasters that Southern Ontario, North has ever seen. But he asks, Mr. Rumack, why does it take 20 minutes to ask one question?
Why does it take? Because
why does it take you 20 minutes to answer one question? I just said, man, hold on. Hold on.
I didn't ask a question. I gave you an answer. What kind of a question is that question? I gave you an answer, not a question.
Every time you talk, Norm,
Yeah.
every time you talk, you're taking a valuable opportunity away from the Greek. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure Pat Legg said that. You want to make a little wager on that, Billy? Well, how much do you want to wager that might be your script and not his, according to Pat Leggs? Okay. Billy, I've got some real estate for you in downtown Toronto. Would you like to have a look?
Listen, here's the problem. The next thought that comes into my mind and through my lips might change the world, Rumack. Don't cause the people. Don't take away from the people. The people need to hear me. They demand to hear me. Now, the question is simple. It wasn't a complicated one. How long do the Raptors have? 1 more year, 2 more years, 3 more years before anybody gives a rat?
With a combo, I'll answer your question.
Simple.
Yeah.
How long?
Okay.
2 more years so we won't talk about them?
Well, do you want the answer or are you going to keep talking? So,
Just a short answer, please.
Okay, I'll try and keep it to 5 minutes. I'm just kidding. Okay, so to answer your question, considering they won a title, I would give Masai, and considering the way he's constructed the team and drafted pretty well, I think I'd give Masai Ujiri and Nick Nurse another this year and next year. That's what I would do.
Okay. And if you were in Masai, would you consider Fred VanVleet as a trade candidate come deadline this year? If you're not turning things around, would you consider him a trade candidate? Would you move him?
Yeah. Well, here's the answer to your question. Look, if he would, move like a Kyle Lowry or DeMar DeRozan, that took some, for lack of a better term, courage to do that, franchise type players, right? So I'm just saying, it's like, especially DeMar, that was that big trade there. And there, Billy, part of the difficulty with that, DeMar was one of the few guys to that stage who wanted to be a Raptor for life. Like, how often have the Raptors had a player who's like, oh, yeah, I love Toronto, I want to stay there forever. So I'm saying it took some guts to make a move like that, right? To move like a cornerstone like DeMar. So I'm saying, to me, Masai's got the guts to take a big chance, a big risk, trade a very popular player to make that move. I think you need that kind of executive in your office who doesn't, there's an expression for all executives in sports, Billy, you would know this. Don't fall in love with any of your players because otherwise it'll stop you from making moves that you have to. So there's your answer. It was long-winded, but I think it's accurate.
Oh, jeez, man. All right.
You must admit it was good.
Jeez, man. If I can imagine, man, if you put me to sleep, I can imagine what you do with this poor audience. God bless you. Norm Rumack, the borderline Hall of Famer, Billy the Greek from Toronto. If you guys notice, obviously, this is not the bottom line, obviously. Obviously, we're working remotely for a couple of weeks into the new year. We'll be on again next week and what have you. But in the meantime, just best of Christmas seasons, best of holidays to all concerned, no matter faith, national, Merry Christmas, Happy, whatever it is that you guys do, God bless you. And
yeah, agreed.
So, God bless you, man, and best of holidays to you and yours, and thank you for giving us a little bit of time out of your day. Yeah. Here's what I'm asking, Norm Rumack. If Masai Ujiri gets 5 years, how long does Kyle Dubas get after he brings us up to Toronto this May?
I must say, Billy, you're saying after he gets the cup? You're assuming he gets the cup.
Because I'm on the record. And I'm telling you that this is the Leafs' year. Obviously, I've said that before and somewhat.
2 years in a row.
Jettisoned unceremoniously make me look like an idiot anyways. I don't know. I figured sitting in my seat, man, you're the best team. You got that Canadian division. You can't beat the Habs. You can't beat the Jets. If the Leafs didn't cup that year, I don't think they'll ever win a cup again. But let's just say happens to be this year. Will Dubas be afforded the same luxuries as one Masai Ujiri in the Toronto market?
Well, I mean, I can't give you a count, but I would think if the Leafs won the cup, considering how long it's been since '67, I think your buddy Kyle and Shanny and the whole crew would buy themselves at least 3 years.
So
at least 3 years.
I would say, given the Leaf Nation and given especially some of the guys on Leaf Nation, I'd say you probably last 3 weeks, 3 months. Again, Toronto's an interesting market craze, and I don't think, and they're one of the markets that I don't think no matter what happens they'll be happy. Sure, they'll enjoy a Stanley Cup for about 2 weeks, but then they're just so used to being like, hold on, man. When you have a fan base and you're so used to being miserable, right? And you finally win.
Yeah.
You don't even know what to do at that point in time. You see, misery is so ingrained, complaining is so ingrained in Toronto Maple Leaf fans, right? That's it.
But Billy, you know what you got to be fair, Bill. You know what you got to measure in. Yeah, people whine. Can I use the word bitch? Whatever. You know, I mean that in a sporting way. Okay, but here's the big thing. MLSE, Rogers, Bell, Billy, what do they like doing? They like counting their money. So as long as season tickets, like by the masses, haven't been canceled, corporate suites haven't been canceled, fans can whine and scream and bellyache on Twitter and Facebook all they want, while they're still paying the bucks to sit in the arena. That's all. The only thing MLSE is going to look at, and the only thing that would prompt them to make a big move, if for some godforsaken reason the Leafs suddenly had like droves of empty seats. And I mean, they have some, but not too many. And
you're telling me that the folks at MLSE and the board, both of the Rap, they don't care to win?
Yeah.
Is what you're suggesting? What if they?
I'm saying they care to win. I'm saying they care to win, but they care to make money more.
All right.
I'm talking about the executives of MLSE. They are very bottom line.
I'm sick and tired of this Toronto is cheap market. Toronto Maple Leafs have always been up against the cap. If the Leafs can spend over the cap and through the cap and create a cap, they would be the Steve Cohens of the NHL. This outfit, regardless of what you say about MLC, they always spend money. You see Rogers, who I don't like, is on board spending money. The Raptors spend money. This is not about money, Norman. This is just
but you're missing my point. It's about fannies in the seats. It's about fannies. I'm saying if they saw a drop off in season tickets or corporate suites,
what would they do? Okay, they saw a drop off.
They would make moves. That's what they're in business for, is to make money.
All right. So what moves would they make, Rumack? You see, you're being hold on. You're being silly now. So if they saw fannies in the seats, right? You've signed Matthews, Martin, or whatever it is. You've spent all the money. What would they do, Rumack? Who would they go and get?
I don't know who they'd go and get, but I'm saying what inspires them to make moves or make changes. If they see the product is not generating the results, then they're going to see. I'm not saying they would move. They're not going to blame Matthews and Marner, but I'm saying you talked about how long Dubas and Shanahan would get, right? Did someone say hammerhead alert? I was just in mid-sentence.
Hammerhead alert.
That's pretty good. That's not quite the energy that I would deliver for hammerhead alert, but for a first attempt, it's not bad, Billy. For a first attempt, it's not too shabby. But I'm just saying, Billy, I'm not saying trade Marner or Matt. I'm just saying, you asked me what motivates them. I'm saying if you gave Kyle and Shanny, or if you gave Nick Nurse and Masai extra time, it's a big if the fans started, dropping off in attendance in significant numbers, that's where they would get nervous, worried, and make a move. So I'm saying, as long as there's not been a drop off, a huge one in season tickets, fans buying tickets that are available, then they'll give the Raptors and the Maple Leafs extra time.
It's 7:48. Listen, it's 7:48. We haven't talked about the NFL. We haven't talked about the Toronto Blue Jays because you've been just babbling on for a good half an hour. So the question I got to ask you, all right, what moves would they make? I don't know. Other than the GM, what moves in terms of on the ice? They're up against the salary. What would they do, Rumack? If there's empty seats, what are they going to do?
I've said this. I've been consistent in what I've said. They would have to sacrifice, and may not be your hero, William Nylander. They may have to sacrifice one of their top forwards to get the extra depth they need on the blue line and on their third and fourth line. Now, it depends who you're getting. You're not just giving up a guy for on a third line. I'm just saying, Punch Imlach, when he won 4 cups with the Maple Leafs, made bold and controversial trades. But I'm just saying, it's true, Billy. He took a lot of heat for some of the deals he made, but he won 4 cups. And sometimes to win a cup, you've got to move players who the fans love, who you love. I'm just saying they might have to sacrifice, because we all know they're top-heavy salary cap-wise on their top 4 forwards. Maybe that's what needs to be changed to get the kind of players they need. I don't think that's an outrage. I bet you a lot of the folks in Leafs Nation would agree with that. you're going to take that next step, you need a gutsy deal to add the depth that you need on the blue line and on your third and fourth line, and to clear some cap.
What you would really need is for the Toronto Maple Leaf brass, Kyle Dubas and company, to summon the courage, to summon the intestinal fortitude to hire me as a consultant. If I would, laugh. I can't get a break anywhere. Here's what I would tell you. If I was hired as a Leaf consultant 4 years ago, right? Yeah. And I had some kind of impetus in terms of the decision-making process and some kind of trust, if you will, I would have got this team out of the first round. It's not complicated. It's not complicated, man. Get a couple more rats that can play in the corners. Get a big D man, and get a couple guys. Get a couple guys, man. Get a couple guys that are willing to sacrifice their life, their health to get to the front of the net, and willing, Norm Rumack. This is the most important thing. Willing to die in a corner. Willing to do whatever it takes to win a board battle, to win a hockey game. And I'm talking about biting, cheating, whatever it takes to win a
You'll get a 2 week, you'll get a 2 week suspension.
I want guys willing to die to win. And in a Maple Leaf uniform, you have to go a long way back. When you watch Dougie Gilmour, you know why they loved him? Toronto Maple Leaf fans loved him. Because he would die to win. Wendell the same way. They would die, put their bodies on the line and die to win. When you're talking about guys that Leaf Golden era, Bob Rose, Todd Gill, these guys would die to win. And the Maple Leafs, for lack of a better term, are missing those kind of heart and soul guys. Yep. You need a couple. Because, hold on, when you have a couple of those guys, it rubs off on everybody else. Now, speaking of rubbing off, obviously, we'll save the Blue Jays for last week. Again, inactivity. You signed Kiermaier. He's going to be your everyday center fielder. Garbage move. These guys over here brought in Kiermaier to be a fourth outfielder. Now it looks like he's going to play 120 games. You got rid of Hernandez. You got double K for 90 games coming off hip surgery. Anyways, have you seen a crazier ending than the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots? And what do you think Bill Belichick's post-game speech was after that display in the last play of the game in Vegas? In 50 years on the planet, have you ever seen something as outrageous?
Well, look, I didn't hear you said Belichick's post-game speech, but Billy, what drew more eyes and what drew more shock was America's team. America's team. The Dallas Cowboys, who were leading by 14 or 17 points, and they lost to Florida, the Florida-based Jacksonville Jaguars. Billy, maybe your recommendation at the end of the playoffs last year was right. Let Jerry coach. Jerry coach. That should become a champ. Let Jerry coach.
Listen, man. This guy gonna give me headache. I can imagine if you dizzy me while you're doing the poor audience, man.
No, but you gotta admit that was the bigger game. Come on.
First of all, Norm Rumack. I watch a little sports, right? Okay. Yeah. First of all, the Jacksonville Jaguars, there's this reputation in given the assumption that this is a bad football team because they haven't been competitive for a few years now. This Jacksonville team is full of talent, young up-and-coming kids. You got a quarterback in his second year in Lawrence that's starting to come around. This is not a Pop Warner football team, number one, that the Dallas Cowboys lost to in Jacksonville. Let's get that clear. And let me tell you furthermore, in a parity-driven NFL, any given Sunday. So now, have you soured on the Kansas City Chiefs making a potential Super Bowl run because the 1-11 Texans took them to overtime?
No, but added to your Cowboys team, those Texans almost beat your Cowboys last week. So Billy, everyone's wondering what the heck is going on. So last week they won by a hair and a whisker. This week they lost after a big lead, and against two clubs that ordinarily you'd say they should beat. If you're going to win, if you're going to compete for a Super Bowl and win it, these teams shouldn't be giving you a hard time. One after the other.
Don, there's a difference, and again, obviously there's a lot of people to blame down in Fort Worth, from the offensive coordinator, some of the questionable play calling late. obvious impacts on the injury front, both on the offensive line, Van Der Esch going down the first. Obviously, a lot of blame going around. That there's a lot of criticism of Dak Prescott, Kellen Moore, Coach McCarthy. Criticism everywhere. Here's what it is. It's a team loss. I would be more concerned that if you look back on that game, you give that game away to Jacksonville. Basically, you're up 27-10. You're dominating through the whole game. You gave that game away. You didn't make mistakes. It's not like the other team. It's not like the other team dominated you physically or took it to you for four quarters. You give a game away in a 16-17 game season. You gave a game away. Here's what I would do. If I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan, and I am, here's what I would do. You're pretty much entrenched in the 5 seed as the first wild card, right? And you're more than likely going to play the winner of the NFC South, which is a division, by the way, that's just terrible, quicksand, led by Tampa Bay at 6-8. So these 3 weeks are irrelevant, really, to the Dallas Cowboys. Right. What I would do is I would make sure that I would get healthy. What does get healthy mean? I would give Parsons a couple weeks off. I would go easy on Dak Pollard. I would play a lot of my backups. I would treat these next 3 games like preseason football games, and then come in stone cold healthy come playoff time. Because I'll tell you this: if Dallas is healthy and all their guys are back, they're as good as anybody in the NFL. They've proved it this year. And at any given Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys can beat any football team and beat them rather handily. You saw what they did to Minnesota. They've exposed a lot of other clubs, right? And a healthy Dallas team, believe me, is very dangerous. So just get healthy and talk to me come playoff time, Rumack. Don't tell me about a week 15 loss. Big deal. Big deal. It's nothing to see here. Move on.
But Billy, even you, being the astute, cognitive, highly respected manager of the prestigious East York Bulldogs, even you, Billy, would say you would not want your team getting in poor habits for 2 or 3 weeks thinking, okay, I'm resting my players, no big deal, we lose a couple of games. Because, Billy, as you would know, better than most, even Billy, imagine this concession here, even better than me, Billy. I don't make admissions like that often, but I'm just doing it for the purpose of my integrity and character. I'm saying even you wouldn't let your beloved East York Bulldogs get in bad habits because you'd be worried they would continue on when you said, okay, I got my healthy player. I'm just saying the Cowboys, that's why it wouldn't be a good idea.
Here's what I understand what you're saying. Obviously, you want to come into the playoffs playing your best football. But for the Dallas Cowboys, the most important thing from a Dallas Cowboy perspective, any team, frankly, the most important point, I can't even talk, man. You got me so riled up. The most important issue is health. You want to come in there. I've seen Micah Parsons. Obviously, to me, he's not 100%. You've used Zeke Pollard. You've used Pollard. What I want these guys to be is fresh and healthy. And come playoff time, Dallas is having troubles because they lost Steele on the offensive line. They've lost their cornerback. They've lost certain guys. So you get as healthy as you can, and you go into the playoffs. Whether or not you go off a couple losses late in the regular season doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter. There's no momentum to be had here. Dallas is not going to gain anything by winning the next 3 games. It's not going to change anything. Nothing whatsoever. The only thing that will change if Dallas goes into Raymond James Stadium, if they still call it that, for a wild card weekend with a healthy club, they're going to roll the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But if you go in there with a suspect offensive line, a Micah Parsons at 70%, you make a few mistakes, then it's a coin flip.
Well, you would hope if you're the Cowboys that what you're saying would be true. It wouldn't be a big deal, but, if you play, and I get it, you're resting your healthy players, but Billy, and honestly, especially at the NFL level, don't you think coaches get worried? It's like, okay, I can't crack the whip too hard. We got injured guys. I'm using backups, taxi squad guys, whatever. And it's like, how are you going to get your squad fired up and say, okay, guys, I want you to bust tail out there? Like, how do you mix that in?
You're not listening when I talk. There's one thing to get fired up.
I heard what you said.
There's absolutely no incentive for the Dallas Cowboys to show up and play football the next 3 weeks. There's nothing in it for them. They cannot catch Philadelphia, and they cannot be passed by either Washington or by the Giants. They're locked in the 5 seed, Rumack.
But Billy, I'm just saying, championship caliber teams. I can't put it this way. I could be wrong, but I can't see the coach in Buffalo, even if they had like a 7-game lead, saying no. I'm saying.
You're not paying attention, man. We're gonna get going 5 minutes.
I know what you're saying. I'm saying you say they got nothing to gain, but I'm saying if you get your players in the habit, it's like, okay, guys, don't worry about this game, the next game, just do your best. Like, it's hard to get. Oh, by the way, now you got to get fired up again. I'm just saying, Billy. I think it does lead to bad habits.
You know what I do? I'm Gary Jones. You know what I do? Laugh if you will. There's 3 weeks to go in the regular season. Whether you finish 13-4 or you finish 10-7, you're still the 5 seed. Get that through your head, number one. If you had the opportunity to play for home field for the number 1 seed, different story. You're the 5 seed no matter what. So in that case, what I do is I send my starters, including Prescott, including Parsons, including I send them all to go away. Don't even play. Don't touch a football for a couple weeks. I play all my practice. And there's one thing that I ensure, and that's a healthy squad. I want a healthy squad. You got 5 minutes.
You know what?
Billy, trust me, I know more than you. I follow football.
No. Here's where there's going to be big trouble. Big trouble. The commissioner of the NFL, if you're playing deliberately, basically like tanking games, Billy. You can't do that in a mate. I know in baseball you sit guys, okay, it's a lot more games. But I think if you're kind of like, for lack of a better term, letting the games go by the side. How about the teams that are relying on you to beat the teams that not relying, but that they're counting on a quality integrity game? I don't think that's fair to the game or to the fans. I think that's wrong.
Hold on, you quality integrity a game. You seen the Lakers come in here into Toronto and rest LJ but the Dallas Cowboys not the only club. Jalen Hurts is on the injury list right now. If it was a playoff game next week in Dallas, you bet your sweet ass he'd play. But do you think he's going to play this Saturday against Dallas?
Well, but Billy, you're talking about taking 3 games. Let's just rest up. I just don't think that's right. You take a game, fine, you got to rest up your guy, but take 3 games we don't need to win till the end of the season. We've got our division wrapped up, whatever, or our playoff spot, wrapped up. I just don't think that's a good look for the league. I just think there'd be some trouble from that. I really do. But that's just my opinion.
Again, if I'm part of the organization and decision-making process, there's one thing that's salient to me, and that's I want to go into the playoffs with my healthiest 52 guys. That's what I want to do. And there's only one thing these next 3 weeks can do to me. And that's for me to lose one of my 52 guys. If you watch Dallas over the course of the last couple of weeks, they've lost Steele. They've lost Van Der Esch. They've lost God knows who. And and they're depleted from an injury perspective. Next week, who knows? Maybe CeeDee Lamb goes down. Maybe this guy goes down. Parsons, 100%. You take all your guys and you rest them. You rest them, you play your backups, and then you come into Tampa Bay hungry and primed and fresh, especially later in a football year. You know what a couple of weeks will do to a body of a football player, especially guys that have grinded it out for 14 weeks? It'll give them a second life. First of all, obviously I know what I'm talking about as manager, as you said, of the Bulldog. This is how I would handle it, but obviously they're not. Whatever. Anyways, before we get going, any thoughts on the Buffalo Bills? Beat Miami on a Saturday night in Orchard Park. Looks like a battle of 1 seed. Anything to ascertain from a Bills victory in Miami, against Miami, rather?
Well, just, and by the way, with the Bills, okay, a loss here and there. They've had some games, where Josh didn't look like the Josh we expect to see, but that happens to the best, even your guy, Dak Prescott, okay? Or Hurts. But anyway, my point is this. I still expect, I don't know if I'll get it, I still expect to see, one way or another, Kansas City and Buffalo duking it out for AFC supremacy when we get to the playoffs. And I haven't seen anything that changes my mind.
Hold on. I watch a little more. Obviously, you're a little, with the ladies, you're always running around. You're the most eligible bachelor in the city of Toronto, so you're obviously got a lot on your plate. Have you seen anything or heard anything about the Cincinnati Bengals in terms of the
I sure have. They had a very nice win yesterday. But I'm just saying, if I have to measure Buffalo against Cincinnati or Kansas, and I know what happened last year. I'm still hedging. I'm not a gambling guy, but if I was making a wager, I would still feel comfortable wagering on either Kansas City or Buffalo. Even a good team can lose a playoff game here and there, but usually those good teams learn from their experience and they get stronger from it. So I'm not knocking Cincinnati. I think it's great what they've done and what they're doing. I think it's tremendous. I just think if I'm a wagering guy, come a playoff game, I would still bank on Kansas City and Buffalo. No disrespect to Cincinnati.
I wouldn't disagree with you. And here's where I sit when it comes with potential clubs that can hoist the Super Bowl. There's literally 7. And maybe you can make a case for the 8th being Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens if he gets healthy. You got Dallas, San Francisco, Philadelphia on one side, and then on the other side you got Kansas City, Buffalo, Cincinnati, and maybe the Chargers, depending on how you feel about them, and the Ravens.
I'll give you credit there, Bill. You said a week ago, watch out for the Chargers, and it's starting to look that way, isn't it?
Not only that, because you got probably arguably one of the best young quarterbacks in football. You got an explosive offense, and here's the thing with the Chargers. They've been riddled with injuries all year, and they're starting to get healthy. They're starting to get guys back there. And again, that's a dangerous, really dangerous team because that team can put 30, 31, 34 points against anybody. They can play any conditions, and that quarterback travels. And again, if there's a sleeper in the AFC, and arguably you're talking about Baltimore and the Chargers. Those are the only two. And don't sleep on the Chargers. When we're talking about the NFC, really, when you look at the NFC as a total, when you're talking about the 4 seed in Tampa Bay, Giants, Washington, Seattle's, again, 3-team race in the NFC. You'd be shocked, would you not, if somebody other than either the Eagles, Cowboys, or Niners came out of the NFC to represent them in the Super Bowl? Wouldn't that be?
That's why we watch sports, because almost in every sport every year there's a so-called Cinderella. Like you yourself, we talked about how many times. Who was picking when we talked? Remember last year ahead of the NFL playoffs, talked about the great quarterbacks that are in this competition. Like there was no mention of the LA Rams at all, right? And then we saw what happened. So I'm just saying that's what makes sports great is we think we know. No insult to any of us, but then. Surprise, surprise. The quarterback who we least expected to have a good run in the playoffs did. Not only because obviously they got great defense with the Rams that they did a year ago. So I'm saying we get surprises like that. So I'll just throw out a quick one for you before we wrap it up. So let's say the Bengals somehow, I know about seed, but forget the seeding for the moment. If the Bengals meet the Chargers in a playoff game, what do you think happens? If the Chargers are healthy or reasonably healthy.
Where's the game?
All right. Well, okay. Well, let's say it's in Cincinnati. Okay, let's give them a home field.
If the game is in Cincinnati, the line is Cincinnati -4, maybe 4.5 tops, and I give the Chargers a 40% chance to win the game, maybe even as high as 45%. Chargers are dangerous any given Sunday. We've seen it this year that anybody can beat anybody, and it really that truly is the state of the union in terms of the NFL. Anybody can beat anybody. All you have to do is come in healthy and play a good 60 minutes, right? And the Chargers have all the weapons. They have all the weapons. Keenan Allen, Williams coming back, arguably the best young quarterback in football this side of Josh Allen. So again, my pick again would be I'm all over the Buffalo Bills, but if it's not the Bills, I look for a Chargers-Cowboys Super Bowl.
Okay. By the way, before we get to the Monday nighter, how did you do on your picks this weekend so far?
Every week I'm starting to get frustrated, man. Every week, 3-4, 4-3. So this week I went 3-4. Last week I went 4-3. The week before I went 4-3, and the week before that I went 3-4. So in other words, it's just
around 50%, right?
46, 38, and 3, which is still better than 50%. But again, the challenges in prognosticating NFL football from this handicapper's perspective have never been more difficult. I'm sure there are guys out there that are having better years than me, which is a first, obviously. I haven't come in second place in any handicapping competition in my entirety of my brief social media sportscasting career. So there's a first for everything, right? And again, don't sell me short. I got 3 weeks left, so I need to maybe a stretch of winning 23 out of my next 25 would put me back to where I'm accustomed to. Don't bet against me.
All right. So what's your pick on the Monday nighter then, Billy?
I'll let you do the honors.
All right. Well, give me the matchup again. Go ahead.
I don't even know. I don't even know. It just so happens I lost all my money yesterday. I'm dead broke. The only thing I've been watching all day is reruns of Cheers, Frasier. I haven't even put on.
Great show, Cheers.
Yeah,
the guy at the bar, Norm. Great guy.
I don't give a rat's ass. From what I hear, it's the Green Bay Packers hosting the LA Rams. So obviously LA and having difficulties in an off year. Green Bay still fighting for their playoff lives. Let's both ride that Green Bay and the Packers. What do you say? You want to jump on board?
All right, I'll give Green Bay by a field goal.
Green Bay there you have it. No, the incomparable. Can we call you that? Late night vampire. I love objectivity. Norm Rumack. Yours truly, Billy the Greek. It was what we got? Cheers. What we got here? We got a nice compliment from Marty Roberts, one of the stars of the fledgling Fired Up Network. Marty, anytime you want to jump ship, come over to the big leagues. We'll squeeze you on from Barrie, Ontario once a month. Hey, Norm, what do you think?
Well, I think the thing we can say about Marty, he loves us, and he loves our good buddy Joe at the Fired Up. I think Billy is like a loyal guy to both camps. I'm saying Marty is a loyal guy to both. Marty is that kind of a guy, right? He's a loving kind of a guy, Billy. He loves everybody the same. So yeah, I think he'd do a share of both because he's such a nice guy, Marty Roberts.
He's got to be a nice guy because he's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, so he's got to be nice. Anyways, on behalf of Marty contributing with his Costa Classic, our producer from Hong Kong. How do you love this, man? I'm in Scarborough, you're in Rosedale, and our producer's in Hong Kong, man, and we can spend an hour together. There are some good things that come with technology and the advent of social media, and this was one of them.
We got to give big props to Jordan LaRoche, our astute producer, who's like, they're 12 hours ahead of us, so he's just getting ready to go to the Starbucks in Hong Kong for a morning coffee. So,
yeah, absolutely. And again, we thank him for the job they do. Thank the people at the bottom line, even though I haven't got my invite to the Christmas party. I hope that's coming soon, and we'll be back. We'll be back down live in person in no time. Again, happy holidays. We'll see you guys next week. All the best. Don't drink.
Merry Christmas, Billy. Merry Christmas, Jordan, to all of our viewers, or Happy Hanukkah, depending on what you're celebrating. And we thank you. We appreciate your checking out the show whenever you can on Facebook Live, and we'll have more fun debates. Next week Billy and I don't take any time off, so. We're happy to be with you through the holidays, and then back, as Billy said, at the bottom line after the new year. So please join us. We thank you for doing that. Hope you've enjoyed the discussion. Feel free to contribute with your comments online. God bless. Have a good week. Enjoy the holidays with your loved ones and friends, and we'll look forward to speaking with you again next week. Thank you so much.